This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com with my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. And this was a big update this week, coming off of AEW doing their big show for Jay Briscoe and the Raw 30th and the Royal Rumble weekend. So lots of news to get into, and I'll jump right into it. Regarding the Royal Rumble, because Peacock's subscribers are up with over 20 million right now, they expect for more people to watch the Royal Rumble than ever. It's the 36th annual Royal Rumble, by the way. Apparently, there's more people subscribed now than there were during last year's WrestleMania. So it could be a very big number. There's over 42,000 tickets out right now. And the live gate has topped $7 million, which will be the largest gate for any U.S. non-WrestleMania in history. They're hoping that it's going to hit 8 million. Clash in the Castle that happened last September was the largest WrestleMania non-gate in history up to this point. So there is a chance Royal Rumble could still beat that. Apparently, they're still not sure who Roman Reigns is going to wrestle at WrestleMania, or like the Wrestling Observer and Dave Meltzer still isn't sure. It looks like The Rock is out, and it could likely be Cody Rhodes or Steve Austin. Meltzer does not want to see it be Austin. I would love to see it be Austin, and I'd love for Austin to beat him, but that's likely not going to happen. But I could see them throwing a lot of money for Austin to come, because it's going to be a disappointment for sure that it's not The Rock, when it seems like ever since they announced WrestleMania was going to be in Los Angeles, which has been years now, there's been talk that it was going to be The Rock. So John Cena, it looks like he might wrestle Austin Theory at WrestleMania, although at one point Jake Paul did say he wanted it to be him. I've heard that one of the reasons that they decided not to make Cody Rhodes a surprise that he would be in the Royal Rumble is because there's going to be other surprise entrants. So we could see a guy like Jake Paul entering the Royal Rumble as well. But we just saw the Jake Paul crown jewel match against Roman Reigns, so I wouldn't expect him to win it. Apparently, Peacock had $660 million in revenue in 2022, but they lost $2.5 billion. So it's still not profitable, and they're paying WWE a ridiculous amount of money for their content. Apparently, originally there was talk of Lesnar against Austin at WrestleMania, but that match is not going to happen. And it looks like it's now going to be Lesnar against Lashley, either at WrestleMania or at the Elimination Chamber in Montreal. Bobby Lashley has done way too many jobs since coming back off of MMA to really be taken that seriously. I'm a fan of his, and I like him as a person, but when they brought him in from having a pretty good MMA career and his Impact run, they should have had the him versus Lesnar match there. I think at Crown Jewel, Lesnar beat him in like 6 minutes or something. So to now build it back up, I just don't see as much interest in that match. And Lashley has lost to a lot of people in recent years, lesser star than Lesnar. So I just don't see that as like a very interesting match compared to how it would have been when they first brought Lashley in. Apparently, there's only 3 matches right now advertised for the Royal Rumble. LA Knight versus Bray Wyatt, which pretty sure we all know Bray Wyatt's going to win that one. Bianca Belair versus Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's title, and Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. And again, Mike Modest did an interview on this channel yesterday, and he was talking about the suspension of belief or the suspension of disbelief being gone. I don't think anyone believes Kevin Owens has a chance in hell of winning that match because they're already talking about Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn, possibly for Elimination Chamber, and Roman Reigns versus either Cody Rhodes or Austin at WrestleMania. So I just don't see that as a very interesting main event when we all know who's going to win. But the main event is really the Royal Rumble match. Apparently, the Bellas were advertised for Raw being on the 30th anniversary show, even though WWE had booked them to be in New York earlier this week to promote their new show related to Nikki Bella's wedding that's going to be on E! So they advertised that, knowing they were booked elsewhere. Apparently, the Bellas were upset they weren't on the Raw show. The Godfather, who has an interview with me on this channel, as well as one with John Paz, said that he's mad at Dwayne Johnson, I guess, that they had a 6'1" guy play him on Young Rock, even though he's actually taller than The Rock. So he was pissed off about that. Well, it's The Rock's show. He can do whatever he wants. Superstar Billy Graham, my mentor, one of my mentors, his kidneys are back working on their own after being on dialysis and being in the hospital for, I don't know if he's been moved yet, but it's got to be over 20 days by now. He's still having issues with infections, elevated blood pressure and heart rate, so he's going to be moved to a nursing home at some point, as he's going to still require antibiotics through IV for a while. So it looks like he'll be in a nursing home for at least 6 months. He's 79 now. His birthday's in June. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery featuring Batista, was given an Academy Award nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay. Good for Batista. He's having a lot of success, and there's a guy that they didn't bring back for the Raw anniversary show, which, I mean, there's no question Batista was one of the big stars of the early 2000s. Ric Flair will be the Grand Marshal of the 2023 Seminole Hard Rock Gasparilla Pirate Fest in Tampa, which I guess is a big deal. Apparently, the story internally of why Stephanie McMahon left the WWE is because she was unhappy. She was being replaced as chief executive officer by her father, and I didn't want to do a demoted job since she's already rich and doesn't need to work at this point. Apparently, Vince has been back at the office, but working more normal hours rather than being there till very late at night like he used to be. Of course, he is in his late 70s. John Cena is on the cover. He is the only guy on the cover of the 2023 WWE video game, which is funny because it just goes to show you how little interest people have in the regular roster. The WWE knows that they're going to get more people interested in the video game with John Cena on there than a member of their regular roster. Funny because even though AEW is still paying CM Punk $3 million a year, according to reports, they took him off the video game, even though he would have been more off of the cover. I don't know if he's still in the video game or not. but it would have made sense to have CM Punk on the cover. Apparently, Lawler wrestled this past weekend in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which marked his 53rd straight year in the ring. He's done very well for himself, and he's aged very well. Matt Riddle has apparently finished rehab and could possibly be returning at the Royal Rumble. Pre-sale for the WWE SmackDown in Montreal the weekend that Elimination Chamber is happening. They got 13,226 tickets sold for that. They haven't done a TV taping in Montreal for a while before the pandemic anyways. And Montreal has 13,493 tickets out. Meltzer's saying that that's close to sellout, but that arena holds 20,000. They could fit more. I mean, I could see them opening up more tickets if they are set up for a 14,000 person sellout, because wouldn't you want to have as many people in there as possible? I don't know. Raw the next week in Ottawa, where they haven't had Raw since 2001, has 6,200 tickets out, which is actually very good for Ottawa, but they haven't done a TV taping here since, I would say, 2014-ish. Fightful is saying that WWE is considering bringing back the Authors of Pain, who haven't wrestled since September 2020, to my knowledge. Triple H likes to bring back people that have been inactive. WWE has dropped the name Banger Brothers for Sheamus and Drew McIntyre because of too much confusion with the Bang Brothers porn company. Yeah. In AEW news, Warner Brothers cleared Mark Briscoe to wrestle on their network going forward. And he had a match against Jay Lethal in Lexington, Kentucky this past week on Dynamite. I've never actually been to Lexington. For some reason, I don't know why. I've been to Louisville a few times. In ratings, WWE did its highest rating in 3 years, 0.7 for their Legends show. They had 13,900 paid, and they claimed 16,957 in the building. So they either comped a hell of a lot of tickets or are exaggerating that. But there's no doubt that it was sold out, and it looked great. And apparently it was the highest gate ever for a Raw, which Meltzer says in the ballpark of 1.5 million. Of course, it's because they put tickets crazy high. Dynamite did a 0.2 rating from Lexington with 5,300 paid. 5,700 in the building. Power Slap was up this week, 0.13. I did watch the highlights from the first week, and I've heard some people say it's no more dangerous than football. I would definitely disagree with that. You're allowed to wind up and hit a guy as hard as you can in the face, unprotected. I mean, that's a lot worse than your average football game. And I think there was 5 knockouts at least in the first episode. NXT did a 0.12 rating. Rampage did a 0.13 rating. SmackDown from Detroit did a 0.55 rating. 11,200 paid. 14,239 in the building. So a lot of comps. Women of Wrestling did a 0.06 rating. Tony Khan said he had to work hard to get Mark Briscoe cleared to appear on television and dedicate the show to Jay Briscoe. Apparently, both of the Briscoes have been on six-figure contracts since early 2021, but have only wrestled on the Ring of Honor broadcast so far. Good for them. I will say AEW is great to work for because you hardly have to wrestle. And I don't know if they have any contracts under six figures. If they do, I haven't heard of one. AEW, every show they did in January, which they only do TV tapings, topped 5,000 paid, which is pretty damn good. Conor McGregor apparently was offered a job to coach on the next season of Ultimate Fighter. Oh, Grandma Daisy tips $5. I'll show you Piper here, Grandma Daisy. She's down here sleeping. You see her? There she is. I know Grandma Daisy's a big Piper fan. He wants to see Matt Bourne in the Hall of Fame 2023. I would like to see that too. Any updates on Typhoon or Rick Martel interviews? Not quite. How am I doing? Pretty damn good, Joseph. Grandma Piper's doing good. She's sleeping beside me. She hibernates during the winter. It's been blizzarding this week here. Robert Brown. Jake Paul, I believe his injury is rehabilitated now. That's what I've heard, although there hasn't been confirmation on that. Malik says somebody was dominant as the world champion in the Hurt business. It's talking about Lashley. I just wish better for Lashley. Maybe only the times I've seen a match of his lately or read about it, he's been losing. But as I said, I like Lashley as a person, and I thought he could have been pushed harder when he first came back. Happy birthday, Grandma Daisy. Someone's calling me. I'll call them back later. My day's doing great, Jason. Thank you. Vincent, power slap is not a sport. It's not a sport when people are taking hits and not able to protect themselves. I agree. I think it's a sideshow, and I don't think it's healthy for people. I'm going to call it an update and call this person back. Hope everyone has a great weekend and afternoon.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe